So, okay. So first of all, I would like to thank Andrea Pilon for giving me the honor to participate to this symposium and to present here the postdoctoral research I'm currently undertaking at the IFAO. Main objective of my research, I'm sorry, but I cut the sound already. Now you open it, so now it's closed. So, okay. Donc, non, toujours des cours. Bon, it's okay. So, main objective of my research is the study of the relative chronology of the Old Kingdom. It might seem a bit out of context for this symposium, but if we want to know when the first intermediate period begins, we should know how long the Old Kingdom lasts. So this work is partly carried out in the framework of the MERIT project, led by Anita Kiles, head of the Department of Archaeometry at the IFAO. The MERIT project aims to build an accurate absolute chronological model for the Old Kingdom through a multidisciplinary approach, bringing together all the analytical criteria of Egyptology, archaeology, and archaeometry. Specifically, my mission in MERIT consists of a re-evaluation of all the available attested dates from textual sources and their reliability. This specific work does not include reflections on the time reckoning system in use during the Old Kingdom that I will also present you here. The complexity of the system for counting years lies in the formulation of these dates. There are two types of years, years of the census of the cattle and years following the census, and it is yet not clear according to which patterns years of the census and years following the census alternate. But first and foremost, the year reckoning system during the Old Kingdom implies a compilation and an analysis of all the attested dates for each reign of that period. So Spallinger was the first to provide this compilation. This major reference then needed to be updated, especially because of the great discoveries made at the end of the 20th century in the royal necropolis of Abu Zir by the Charles Institute of Egyptology in Prague. And this is for this reason that Miroslav Werner published an up-to-date and exhaustive list of dated attestations for all the Old Kingdom. This K article, essential to anyone who needs to access the chronological data of any reigns of the Old Kingdom, has been reedited twice in 2006 and 2008. Werner's article, as useful and necessary as it is, suffers nevertheless from certain limitations, mostly due to the fact that it is only an article limited in page. So first of all, the dates are considered by default as dates of the type Renpet census year. Yet, in many cases, signs that determine the type of the year are missing or incomplete. Therefore, nothing allows us to completely exclude the possibility of a run pattern reading. Also, there is no clear distinction between fully certain reading and more questionable or incomplete decipherment. Since the critical apparatus is restricted to the minimum, the issues specific to each document are not apparent. And finally, my revision reveals that a few documents are missing and that some other sources do not seem to have been systematically checked. So that's why a complete re-examination of the dated sources is necessary, especially now that 13 years have passed since the last update of this compilation, 13 years marked by important discoveries concerning this work. For now, this re-evaluation has been completed for the 4th dynasty. A revision of the 5th dynasty dates is a work in progress, and the 6th dynasty will follow. Concerning the 4th dynasty, we started from the existing inventories, of course, but it was also necessary to examine all the archaeological publications relating to in search of attestations that Spallinger or Werner could have missed. And this approach proved to be useful. 34 new attestations have been gathered for the 4th dynasty compared to 96 previously, reading now a total of 130 attestations. Yes, please. It's already cut. So excuse me for this cut. It's cut already. So I will continue. Okay, that's always. Sorry for that. So we have now a total of 130 attestations. It appears also that a considerable number of attestations listed by Werner in 2008 needed to be reconsidered. Some received corrections on the qualification of the type of census, on the account of the census, and some attributions were changed.
Sorry to interrupt vocally, but the slides are still not visible.
We do not have the time here to further develop all this revaluation. I will just present you quickly our main results. So for the reign of Snefru, the main contribution comes from the study of the photographical archives of Posner-Piégé concerning the dated graffiti from Meidum. With these documents, it is now possible to bring precisions on the decipherment of the published facsimiles, which left some questions unanswered, as pointed out by Roman Gundaker. We also have found some unpublished attested dates, and the update of this list now contains 73 entries compared to the 47 previously attested. Despite the addition of new documents, we did not attest new years of reign. So this phenomenon is nevertheless not surprising. The spatial distribution between Dachau and Meidum of these numerous attestations remains limited and homogeneous. The sources share on each site the same archaeological context or were part of the same construction phase. Okay, but you had to... Alors, je fais comment? Non, bah, So, excuse me for the missing slides. Okay, so come back to Meidum with. I start again. Okay, I'm sorry. Really, I do that? Okay, so. Well, so I already thank you, Andrea. So the work I present you today is a study, my postdoctoral research I currently undertaking at the IFAO. So main objective of this research is a study of the relative chronology of the Old Kingdom. So this work is partly carried out in the framework of the MERIT project, led by Anita Kiles, head of the Department of Archaeometry at the IFAO. The MERIT project aims to build an accurate absolute chronological model for the Old Kingdom through a multidisciplinary approach, bringing together all the analytical criteria of Egyptology, archaeology, and archaeometry. Specifically, my mission in MERIT consists of a re-evaluation of all the available attested dates from textual sources and their reliability. The specific work does not include reflections on the time reckoning system in use during the Old Kingdom that I will also present you here. So there are two types of years, years of the census and years following the census. And this is why this system is complex, and it is yet not clear according to which patterns years of the census and years following the census alternate. But first and foremost, studying the year reckoning system during the Old Kingdom implies a compilation and analysis of all the attested dates for each reign of that period. Spallinger was the first to provide this compilation. The Mather referent then needed to be updated, especially because of the great discoveries made at the end of the 20th century in the royal necropolis of Abu Zir by the Charles Institute of Egyptology. And for this reason, Miroslav Werner published an up-to-date and exhaustive list of dated attestations for the Old Kingdom. This key article is essential to anyone who needs to access the chronological data of any reigns of the Old Kingdom, has been read twice in 2006 and 2008. Werner's article, as useful and necessary as it is, nevertheless suffers from certain limitation, mostly due to the fact that it's only an article limited in pages. So first of all, the dates are considered by default as dates of the type Renfet census year. Yet, in many cases, signs that determine the type of the year are missing or incomplete. Therefore, nothing allows us to completely exclude the possibility of a Renfet and Pretsep reading. Also, there is no clear distinction between fully certain readings and more questionable or incomplete decipherments. Since the critical apparatus is restricted to the minimum, the issues specific to each document are not apparent. And finally, my revision reveals that a few documents are missing and that some other sources do not seem to have been systematically checked. So this is why a complete re-examination of the dated sources is necessary, especially now that 13 years have passed since the last update of this compilation, 13 years marked by important discoveries concerning this work. For now, this revaluation has been completed for the 4th dynasty, and a revision of the 5th dynasty dates is a work in progress, and the 6th dynasty will follow. Concerning the 4th dynasty, we started from the existing inventories, of course, but it was also necessary to examine all the archaeological publications relating to, in search of attestations that Spallinger or Werner could have missed. And this approach proved to be useful. 34 new attestations have been gathered for the 4th dynasty, 96 previously, reading now a total of 130 attestations. It appears also that a considerable number of attestations listed by Werner in 2008 needed to be reconsidered. Some received correction on the qualification of the type on the account of the census, and some were changed, and 2 documents were deleted. We do not have time so here to further develop all this reevaluation. I will just present you quickly our main results. For the reign of Snefru, the main contribution comes from the study of the photographical archives of Posner-Kriege concerning the dated graffiti from Meidum. With these documents, it is now possible to bring precisions on the decipherment of the published facsimiles, which left some question unanswered, as pointed out by Roman Gundaker in his PhD work. We also have found some unpublished attested dates amongst this photography, and the update of this list now contains 73 entries compared to the 47 previously attested. So, despite the addition of new documents, we did not attest new years of reign. On the contrary, it led to the deletion of a considerable number of them. This phenomenon is nevertheless not surprising. The spatial distribution between Dachau and Meidum of these numerous attestations remains limited and homogeneous. These sources share on each side the same archaeological context or were part of the same construction phase. It is therefore logical to observe such homogeneity among the dates. In sum, if in terms of number of dated documents, the reign of Snefru well documented, the period of his reign itself is not, with only 9 distinct years attested, of which 7 are certain, for a period which should have lasted several decades. Stunningly, it is maybe the reign of Khufu which brings us the most interesting data for a reflection on the Yarkon system, with now 3 attestations of different year after the census. But still, the evidence at our disposal remains thin and rare, and generally speaking, not all of them contain the same degree of reliability. Our work is still ongoing concerning the revision of the attested dates of the 5th and 6th dynasty. So in addition to the 85 attestations already listed by Werner, new attestations are expected from the recent excavation at Abu Zir, at Saqqara, or from the hidden marks revealed by Yanis Gourdon at Atmoub, and so on. We hope to deliver a full, complete and commented catalogue of all the attested regnal years at the end of the year. But the major difficulty lies in the conversion of this data into length of reigns. To do this, it is necessary to understand the year reckoning system established during the Old Kingdom. So, as well established by the previous work of Michel Beau, the year reckoning system results from a long evolution in the designation and the counting of the years, with firstly an event-based designation and then a numerical counting. It is from the 4th dynasty onward, precisely from the reign of Snefru, that a year count system becomes regularized based on the recurrence of a fiscal event, namely the census of all the large and small cattle of Upper and Lower Egypt. The pattern according to which years of the census and years after the census follow one another has been extensively discussed these last decades. This question is indeed crucial for the establishment of the chronology of the Old Kingdom, since it makes it possible to render intelligible the dates of the reign recorded, and thus to estimate the attested maximum length of the reigns. So the well-known standard theory is the most accepted approach, first defended by Sette and Gardiner. It considers the cattle census as a biennial event, occurring every other year. However, the recto of the Palermo stone showed for the reign of Snefru 2 years of the 7th and the 8th census following each other without a year in between. This irregularity has often been considered as irrelevant, since it could be justified by an exceptional royal decision not to apply the biannual rhythm, maybe because of the recent military operation in Libya, as we know. This hypothesis should surely be considered, but in doubt, it is also necessary to consider an alternative. This data might reveal accurate information about the expected regularity of the census cycle. Furthermore, there are fewer years after the census than years of the census among the dated attestations. Different statistics have been published on this topic by Spalinger and Nolan mostly, but they must now be reconsidered on the basis of re-evaluated attested dates delivered by the Merit Project. And we can already affirm that the general tendency will still be that of a greater number of Renpetsep than Renpet-Emretsep, but with a smaller gap than before, as observed for the sole reign of Snefru. Again, the relevance of this information has been debated. For Posner-Kriege and others, the dates recorded among the workmen's mark, especially the Meidum marks, might be unreliable due to the lack of literacy of the workmen who inscribed the graffiti, or due to a deliberate graphic simplification of the dates, altering the attestations. Yet, it appears that all the attested Renpet Emretsep from the reign of Snefru are known after those graffiti. And it seems a little bizarre to simplify the date by amputating its specific element of characterization. Moreover, John Nolan has since determined that even if we exclude these controversial graffiti dates, there remains an imbalance in favor of the census years. So the phenomenon should be taken into account. So John Nolan attempted to restore the informative value of this data and found a pseudo-triennial rhythm amongst these sources. This could correspond to a lunisolar calendar, which should exist in parallel with the civil calendar. So before going any further, we must define what is a lunisolar calendar and what is its purpose. Generally speaking, the main difficulty in measuring time and establishing a calendar is that different astronomical cycles do not coincide. The solar cycle or tropic cycle corresponds to the time interval measured between two consecutive equinoxes or solstices, and it equals to something more than 365 world days. The cycle is very close to the sidereal or stellar cycle, which is currently 20 minutes longer than the solar cycle. From the Earth, we can be aware of this cycle by controlling the celestial position of certain stars in relation to distant stars considered as fixed points in the sky. And then the Sothic year is also very close to the solar cycle and lasted approximately 365 days and a quarter in ancient Egyptian antiquity. It is important to say that complex parameters, which cannot be explained here because of time constraints, make the event very difficult to predict. So, possibly at the beginning of the third millennium, the Egyptian invented what is commonly known as a civil calendar. The first attestation of a third month of Shemu comes from the complex of Djoser. And the length of this civil year is not directly determined by an astral or solar event and consists of 12 months of 30 days and 5 epagomenal days. These epagomenal days are already attested in the 4th dynasty in the Wadi Jaf papyri. The problem is that the civil year inevitably shifts by 1 day every 4 years in relation to the solar, sidereal, or Sothic year. In more concrete terms, if the civil year starts at the time of the flood and it continues without any arrangements, there will be a time shift of a whole season after 480 years have passed. So measuring time is a primary concern for any society wishing to organize its food supply and human activities, because this involves anticipating the seasons, and in Egypt specifically, the flood of the Nile. We can therefore wonder if such a time shift will be acceptable in ancient Egypt. Richard Parker and Leo Depoit have also demonstrated the existence of a second lunar calendar, which was used alongside the civil calendar and was exclusively religious and independent of the civil calendar. The lunar year, that is more or less 354 days, can remain synchronized with the sidereal or solar year with the addition of a 13th month, intercalary months, also called embolismic months, that can be irregular but is never random. This solution is what is called a lunisolar calendar. So, for John Nolan, the Renpet Emretsep years corresponds to the 30-month year of a lunisolar calendar. Considering the dates of the reign of Djedkare, he recognized a pattern similar to the Sumerian lunisolar calendar. It consists in the addition of 7 embolismic months over a 19-year cycle, at the end of which the lunar year corresponds again to the solar year. This well-known cycle is called Metonic cycle, after the name of the Greek astronomer Meton. But actually, Nolan failed to apply the specific patterns to the dates of Jet Carré. One papyrus is dated from the year after the 7th census, when his model would rather predict a Renpet-Empretsep 8. So to justify this, Nolan mentioned an observational or a human error. Thus, the Metonic cycle does not fit perfectly to the sources and needs adjustments. The author concludes that the actual order of biennial intercalations versus triennial intercalations is unimportant, stating nevertheless that unfortunately, we do not have a series of lunar dates from the Old Kingdom which will demonstrate the pattern of intercalation, end of quote. However, as we shall see, we might have enough clues to determine this pattern. During my PhD research, I have been able to notice that another lunisolar cycle naturally emerged from the attested dates of the reign of Jet Carré. The sources show that the census appears to be suspended regularly, this time every 2, then 3, and then again 3 years. This cycle, well known in antiquity, is called octaeteris. Like the Metonic cycle, the octaeteris is a lunisolar calendar with 3 embolismic months over a period of 8 lunar years, thus forming a cycle of 99 lunations. All the astronomical cycles become synchronous again every 8 years. The 100th lunation marks the beginning of a new octaeteris. So the visual tracking of this cycle is therefore relatively simple, especially at a time when astronomical science might have been more observational than predictive. In antiquity, the use of such a cycle is attested in the ancient Near East. It was then used in Greece in the 5th century BC, where Eudoxus of Cnidus is said to be the inventor. The octaeteris is defined by the following few lines of a Greek papyrus from the Serapeum of Memphis, now in the Louvre Museum, commonly known as the Art of Eudoxus. Numerous ancient authors also wrote that it was in Egypt that Eudoxus acquired his own scientific knowledge in the field. This could indicate an Egyptian origin of the Greek octaeteris, either promoted or invented by Eudoxus. We have therefore tried to apply this hypothesis to all the attested dates for the Old Kingdom, and the experiment is conclusive. There is no attested date that might invalidate this new theory, at least in the present state of our research, but still, the attested dates for the 5th and 6th dynasties still need to be reevaluated with the same criteria than the 4th dynasty ones. No, none of the dates of the best documented reigns, such as those of Snefru, Jet Carré, and Pepi II, object to the octaeteris. 2 other noteworthy developments deserve attention. First of all, with that cycle, it appears that the year after the 18th census of Pepi I, attested in Sinai and in Wadi Amamat, and associated with the Set festival of this king, does indeed correspond to the 30th year of his reign, a conjunction already obtained by Nolan with his own lunisolar calendar. The inscription dated to the year of the 25th census in Apnub, also commemorating a Set festival or expressing the Wunsch idee of this event for eternity, would thus be engraved in the stone 10 years after the first Set festival. And moreover, we observe that If the civil calendar and the religious octaeteris calendar begin with the same starting point, the two calendars become synchronous again at the end of the 30th year. One may wonder whether this synchronicity between divine time and administrative and human time could be linked with the 30-year duration expected for the said festival. Another issue is yet to be confronted. This new interpretation of the rain dates tends to shorten the rains considerably. On this basis, Snefru would have reigned at least 38 years, Jadkare 34 years, and the longest reign of the Old Kingdom, that of Pepi II, would have lasted at least 50 years. Of course, this is an ongoing research and conclusions may still evolve. But this theory tends to shorten considerably the duration of the reigns, while archaeometrical data currently pleads for a higher dating of the Old Kingdom. So this time shift could be partially resolved by supporting the hypothesis of a longer first intermediate period, as some scholars propose. So thank you for your attention, and I'm really sorry for the bug at the beginning of the communication. Thank you.
Thank you for this lovely talk, and I have to say that you did in a marvelous way, both with the technical equipment and both the subject, which is quite complicated. And I personally like the Eudoxus story very much. I just wish Tony Spellinger were online, because he will be one of the very few persons able to comment on the subject. Nevertheless, we have space for some comments or discussion. Anyone in the room? Anyone who's online?
Complaints.
So, do you think they stopped to use this system at the moment after the Old Kingdom? What is your idea?
So we have several clues that could indicate that this lunisolar system would last after the Old Kingdom, but only in a religious context. And we have some clues from the Middle Kingdom and the Demotic papyrus. And but I didn't hear one.
So, and you have so you are working also on dates of the first intermediate period after. So your project is focusing now on the beginning of the Old Kingdom, and are you continuing to study also the end of the Old Kingdom for this project, and so also the first intermediate period?
Well, for the Merit project, we are focusing on the Old Kingdom, but for the reflection about this time reckoning system, we need, of course, to search, to look after other clues of lunisolar calendar through all the ages of the pharaonic era. So yes, I hope this is a long study. We just begin, and I'm sure we will need to cross a lot of different periods to secure this theory, and we'll see if it can be confirmed or not.
So we should have more place for a post-intermediate period in the chronology. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, as Andrea said, the implications would be quite reasonable, really reasonable. So let me check again if there are some maybe raised hands, which I don't.
It was yours.
Nobody. So thank you again, and
Question?
we look forward for the further. Oh yeah, sorry. So we have Professor Willems. So stay here, please, because there will be another remark or question.
Hello, this was a very interesting talk. I was.
Sorry, we don't hear you yet because there is still a problem here.
Okay. Do you hear me now? Hello? Hello? You can hear me?
I don't know.
Apparently not.
So maybe if you write the question, I'm really sorry, but we have a mistake, a problem with the sound right now. And I apologize for all this technical problem. It would be a bit long, but you're shortening the. So it would be a bit long, but your shortening of the Earth Kingdom will seem to challenge the new carbon 14th dates. Exactly. Can you comment? Well, I absolutely regret that my colleague Anita Quiles could not be able today. She really cannot be present here, but she will be the most qualified person to answer this question. Actually, this is the goal, the aim of the MERIT project is to precise all these carbon 14 conclusions with new physical, statistical, and mathematical approach. And but still, these dates are making the Old Kingdom earlier than we thought, as the work of Ramsay and so did. So yes, there is a problem with that. So maybe some kings are missing. Maybe the first intermediate period should be a bit elongated. We'll see. So.
I just wish to add one remark, namely to bring up here the relatively recent article by our Israeli scholars that also suggested to move the actual end of the EB3 and the beginning of the EB4 by, as far as I remember, for the third millennium, by 150 years. So that might support your approach. So I don't know if you know the article, but it's quite huge consequences, I have to say. Okay, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
And now, since Anita Quiles cannot attend to this meeting, we agreed with Andrea Plon that he would spend some time enlightening us with her research and with her project, which is called Using Radiocarbon During the Modeling, Dating the Modeling and Absolute Chronology of the Old Kingdom and the First Intermediate Period Projects and Perspectives. So just...
Okay, so I just would like to say only a few words about the project of her project, the project of Anita Quiles. For people who doesn't know this project, call it the MERIT project, chronological modeling of the old Egyptian empire. So this project sets the goal of building a precise, complex, and multi-technical absolute chronological model of the old Egyptian empire and the kingdom, and the third millennium more generally. by an integrated approach bringing together the analysis criteria of Egyptology, archaeology, and archaeometry. It is part of an interdisciplinary method of integrative archaeology. It responds to two significant challenges. Firstly, to develop a chronological framework reign by building a statistical model reconciling Egyptian and analytical data. Secondly, to adapt the C14 calibration curve to consider the environmental conditions specific to Egypt to make the dating method efficient for this geographical space. She's working in collaboration with some international museums like the Louvre and the Turin Museum, and with archaeological missions working in Egypt, of course, like the mission of Wadi Jarf in collaboration with Pierre Tellet. So this project involves 7 research units like the IFAO, the Paris Sorbonne University, and Paris-Saclay. And it is supported by the archaeometry pole, so the IFAO, and by a consortium of Egyptologists, archaeologists, archaeometers, curators, physicists, and statisticians. It engaged research in 4 directions: historiography, archaeometry, methodology, and statistics. And the project's impact will go beyond Egyptology, since this revision will have consequences on the chronology of all civilizations, we hope, of the Eastern Mediterranean basin in the 3rd millennium, based mainly on Egyptian chronology, as you know, highlighting the importance of analytical and modeling approaches in archaeological research. So thank you to Anita Quiles to leading these very important projects in the future, in the next years. Thank you.
You all miss Anita Quiles, but at least we had this short introduction, and as most of you know, she's easily to be reached by her email. Maybe we will have the pleasure to see her later during the meeting. Anyway, I would like to thank all the speakers and all in attendance this morning. Now we deserve another 15 minutes for break, and then I will give the floor to my colleague Gersanda Eschenbrenner-Dima to chair the next session. So let me just tell you that we should reconvene here again 5 to 12, please. Cairo time. Thank you very much.
Ah ouais, non, c'est comme ça. On aurait pu continuer le travail, non? Non, pas maintenant. Après, si c'est nécessaire, je vais là le USB. Voilà. Oui, oui. will see. Vamos a ver. Where is where is the okay. Moi, c'est après la deuxième. Alors, il faut que je mette le truc ici. Et alors, si vous voulez, je peux voir si Kingston, open folder. Alors, under open folder to view, aquí, ¿no? A ver, aquí.